Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Today I am going to be doing something a little bit different for those times when I just don't feel like stamping out and creating everything from scratch. So I have this is the Build a Bouquet Ephemera pack here, and this is from Altenew. I have already used some of the pieces in here, so this is not quite a fair representation of what comes in it, but in general there are sort of greens and blues, pinks, reds, oranges, yellows, all sorts of kind of foliage and flowers basically to build a bouquet, as it says. So I do like these die cuts. However, something that I don't always love in my card making is the white border that comes around the outside of all of these images. Now this is pretty stock standard when you are die cutting. You pretty much, with lots of companies, you will get them. Some of the companies don't have those. With Stampendous, I know that those ones cut right up to the edge. There are a few companies that don't leave a white border, but in general they pretty much do. And so all I do is I pop around these with my fussy cutting scissors, my cutter bee scissors, and I quickly fussy cut them just to take away that white border. Now this is purely a choice thing. Some people like it, some people don't mind it. Honestly, it probably looks fine without it, but this is just my preference, and seeing as I had the time, I did fussy cut around a few of them. But to create a couple of quick backgrounds, I have the stencil here. This is the Buffalo Plaid square stencil, as you would expect, and I am going to pop this down with some light and fluffy modeling paste, any sort of texture paste, modeling paste, anything with glitter, anything like that. I just want to create a really subtle background, and I guess this one is a little bit hard to see on camera in the finished, but in the real life person it looks pretty good. It looks just like a little bit of extra texture and something to look at in the background without it being quite so plain. So I do have little helpers beside me, so you'll see hands popping in and out at the side. But I am using some mint tape, some low tack tape, just to edge off a border. Now the one thing I do like about the mint tape is that I can see through it enough that I can make sure I have a relatively even border without having to measure anything at all, because if you guys have watched my channel, I'm not a big fan of measuring if I can get away with it. So then I pop down my stencil and I'm going to add a thin layer of embossing paste with a palette knife. I want it to be quite thin because this stuff dries really fast if it's nice and thin. We are heading into summer at the moment. The temperatures are not super warm, but they're not cold. So it's hovering usually around the sort of anywhere from 11, 12, 13 degrees Celsius, sort of those mid-teen numbers. So it's not really hot, but not really cold, and things like this dry pretty fast at the moment. Then I am adding on some glitter. This is, I don't think this one's available anymore, but it's essentially white, glittery, diamondy glitter. It used to be from Nouveau, and I've just added a little bit. This is going to stick to that wet embossing paste, and then I'm going to wait and put that aside until it dries. This time I have the Vintage Artistry rub-on transfers from Market 49. I did a video a little while ago actually using some rub-ons, and I feel like I am back in the swing of them. I have been really enjoying using these in my card making. They make life so simple, and I did actually I think 3 cards in the video using just rub-ons, and it was so much fun. So I have this set here today, and I really love this kind of newsprinty old book kind of look, just for some background detail without having to put too much effort in and try and find all of the stamps and things. So I'm cutting out, I prefer to cut out the pieces that I need, even though you definitely don't have to. This way I know that I'm not going to accidentally adhere something that I don't want to, or you know, something gets stuck in a place that I don't want it to. So you just remove the backing, and then it does come with a little thing that you can push the rub-ons onto, but I had my palette knife right beside me, so I'm using the back end of that, but it does come with one. And then I just place these around the outside. This is directly onto my card base, so this is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and I'm just going to add them around the outsides, bearing in mind that I'm going to put something as a focal feature in the middle, so I don't want to waste any of the rub-ons, putting them in places that I definitely know they are going to be covered. So I'm definitely sticking further to the outside than going onto the inside. Then from here, once you have your backgrounds created, it is really a matter of putting everything together and having a play around with all of those flowers and foliage that comes with that little set. Now, I'm sure there are a million sets like this out there on the market. You probably already have some. You may even have already stamped some images and just put them aside in a pile to use another day, and you can use that as your stock for this kind of technique. Anything is going to work here. You might cut out things from a paper pad or from magazines or from junk mail, anything like that, and you can use as a focal point. I had this ephemera set here, sitting here, and I wanted to make sure that I could find a way to use this and that it wouldn't just look like I kind of plonked them onto a card base in a hurry, I guess, is what I was thinking. So once I have got together my colours that I want to use, some of the flowers I want to use, I did fussy cut out a couple more of them and get rid of that border. Then I thought I wanted to add a slight border to this one, so I'm actually using a ruler. I have been very much into the kind of wonky frames, black line frames recently in my videos, but for this one I did go straight. I used a ruler and I did a couple of lines side by side, and they are not perfect lines. I went across them quite quickly with the black pen, and so it skipped a couple of times, and I quite like that look. It goes with the background of all of those kind of words and the rub-ons that we used in the background, so I like that. Once I decide I have the setup that I want for my flowers, I am going to use a couple of different methods to adhere them. For some of them I'm going to use some foam squares, and for some of them I am going to use some matte medium, some liquid glue that's going to glue them down nice and flat, because I don't want the card to be super dimensional. Most of these I will be sending through the mail, so I want to make sure that I can still fit them in the envelope. Once I have them in place, I kind of stick everything down. Now, some of these flowers do look a little bit different. I wanted to make them look a little bit more cohesive. So once I had popped down this third flower here in my little bunch, I thought I wanted to, you can see one of them has like a dark center, one of them has spotted centers, and one has no center at all. You could definitely leave it like that, but I actually used one of those blue, dark blue, navy blue leaves there and cut one out to be similar to that other littler one, and then I popped that on the middle, and I feel like that finishes off that flower a little bit better. And then the other one just looked odd. It looked like the odd one out from there, so I cut one to pop on top as well, and then honestly that kind of felt like they were all a little bit more cohesive to me. I popped in some blue foliage here, there, and everywhere. There's no rhyme or reason as to how to do this. Even with every other video I make, I generally just try things, see what it looks like, and then once I think I have it in place, I will glue everything down. But usually I just poke them in to see if I like the look, and then once I've got it, I'm happy to pop them in. So sometimes I cut them down a little bit, sometimes I add little bits to them. I encourage you, with whether it's dies or stamps or stencils or ephemera packs, to just make them yours. Cut them down, use them how you want to use them, and make the most out of the products that we choose to invest in. This is the Spectrum Noir acrylic paint pen white. I just wanted to add some dots and some little details onto the flowers. I think I lost some footage here, but I did add a little bit to the petals and things as well. You'll see in just a second, and I just added a tiny little bit to kind of make the flowers all nice and cohesive. So that is the first card. It's not finished, they've got sentiments and things on it, but I'm going to put it aside and work on the second one now that this is dry. So I'm going to peel back all of my little mint tape, and it has left a really crisp, nice white border there, and that texture paste and the glitter, it looks really, really nice. I know it's kind of hard to pick up. I mean, I know you can see it okay, but in the final cards, it looks a little bit hard to pick up, but it's there and I can see it, and I really like how this one turned out. So I have my flowers that I pretty much know I want to use on this one. These ones have all sort of similar centers and are all those kind of light, almost pastel-y colors. I guess the yellow one's not really, but kind of is. It goes nicely, and so I'm going to pop, as I did the other one down with the matte medium, and then a couple using some foam squares. Sometimes if you have a whole lot of glitter or a rough background, you might need to use some liquid glue even on the back of your foam squares, and that will help adhere down onto that kind of rough background. But this was pretty good actually. It did a pretty good job, but sometimes I will squeeze it down if I know it's going through the mail. I just want to make sure that it's going to get there how I intended it to, so I will add some more glue to make sure it is well and truly stuck in place. This one I've gone with some green foliage around the outside, and then just to finish these off I'm going to add a few little sentiments. I'm going with one of my most favourite sentiment sets at the moment. This one just works so well. I love this because the little black borders around each of the words just means that it kind of finishes it off for me, and I don't have to do any layering or any bordering for it. So it just kind of, I don't know, this one is one of my favourites. So I just stamped them out, happy birthday and with thanks, and I'm just going to cut these out as per usual. I do leave a tiny white border around the outside. I really like that look. Then a friend of mine sent me this double-sided foam tape. This is the Couture Creations one. I haven't tried this before, so I'm going to use this. I tend to use a little bit of foam tape in my card making. I like popping things up, and I like kind of a little bit of dimension on each one of my cards. So I'm always interested to try new foam tapes and things like that. Another reason that I like these sentiments is that they are nice and easy to read. So they're kind of big enough to know that there is a sentiment on the card, however they are not too big that they kind of take over anything. So they feel like the perfect amount for me. I am really enjoying them. I put a couple of little black spots here, there and everywhere around one of the cards, and that is it finished for today. Let me know in the comment section down below if you use ephemera packs or if it's something that you might try out in the future. But other than that, thank you so much for joining me today, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next video. See you then, bye!